Hello and welcome to another episode of Power On Podcast, The Bebops. I want to try to keep making different things. I don't know how long it'll last. I'm one of your hosts, Taylor, and with me is the appreciative, the mindful, the warm Sushi B. How you doing?
Thank you for the very nice intro. I'm doing well. This is going to be an interesting one since we are going to be combining 2 for 1 here.
Yeah, we're going to double dip and do Jupiter Jazz Part 1 and Part 2 together.
Mm-hmm.
So...
that only makes sense.
Yeah, I mean... Yeah.
I mean, I suppose we could have cut them up, but it just makes sense.
We could have, but...
Draw them together.
That and it's just the tone of it. It just works better to have them be together.
Yep.
As their own sort of thing there instead of whatever, you know. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So we're gonna start into this, and I like how this 2-parter starts off, which is absolutely nothing to do with the Bebop.
Mm.
It's like, oh, you guys know the Bebop. We're gonna go elsewhere for a moment. Just sit tight.
Yeah.
And we finally get a little bit more, it's always like, oh, great. Once the syndicate's in, it's a syndicate starts episode kind of thing. Mm. They're the ones that get the ball rolling. They are the engine that drives this thing.
Right.
So, I really like how this starts off. Because, you get a little bit of a back and forth, and it's like, hey, Vicious, know your place. And Vicious is like, I know my place. It's where you're sitting. Mm-hmm. You know, kind of thing. So, it's like, why don't you take care of him now, instead of letting the problem persist? But no, we're good. We're fine.
He might change his mind.
Yeah, we might figure it out afterwards. Whatever.
There's still time.
Yeah, plenty of time. Leave it in the fridge.
Yeah.
So, how about yourself? What's something particular from these 2 episodes that you really, really enjoy?
It's weird. I like these 2 episodes, and
Mm-hmm.
It's cool that they link together.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of sit in the middle for a lot of it, though. I can't explain why in some degree, but there are things that I like, and then they pull me right back to the other side of being like, I don't know what to feel on a lot of this stuff. It's complicated, and I think that's probably what they wanted to go for a lot of it, to show the complex nature of these relationships that the 3 of them have, but then with the outside world as well. Mm-hmm. I don't know, would you agree? But like Spike this is like leaning far more into his sort of past and stuff, where, you know, the mm-hmm. others, they're feeling the repercussions of his actions, past and present.
So, you know, splurged about the syndicate thing. I was going to hold off on this, but I'll bring it up now. I think the reason why you may feel that way is because episode 12 starts off with Sitting Bull, or I think that's what his name is. Yeah. And the spirituality of the just the visuals and the scene, and also talking to the young one about the tear of the warrior and the shooting star. Mm-hmm. And then it ends pretty much with that being repeated. So you're getting this cyclical thing, but also everything is back as to what it once was. Mm-hmm. So there's really not any movement. You know, a lot of stuff goes on, but there is no movement with these characters whatsoever. Mm-hmm. Jet is letting Spike back onto the ship, even though he wanted to put his foot down and kicks him out and all this sort of stuff. But here he comes back in, and kind of similar to like people do with relationships with people that, you know, like more so a boyfriend or girlfriend or something. Mm. Here's somebody who's not doing you any good, but because they're just okay with it, or they're just comfortably numb with it. Oh, it's something that is a familiar thing, just gonna bring them back into my life, kind of thing. It's like, and Faye's just as wayward as she once was. Ed's Ed. So,
I mean, Ed takes a big backseat in these two.
Right.
Ed doesn't really get to do too much here.
Right. But that might be why you feel a little in the middle.
Yeah, maybe. It is it is a cyclical set. It's just, it looks like things are moving and advancing forward, but you're right, that closure by the end of the second act just put us basically right back to the start.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, there's a few repercussions to the things that happen, but those characters that those repercussions react to are only introduced at this point, really, as well.
Right.
So it's not as if we really get to know them enough to really understand the what happens to them. Like, if we knew more of their backstory and how it connects either to our main characters or not, but we just don't really get the emotional response too strongly for or against them.
I think this is how to put it. This is one of those that it isn't until you've watched the series it sort of helps understand Faye's character a little better, and why she kind of has this drawn attraction to Gren here a bit, because I really think it reflects and echoes the things that goes on with Whitney that comes up in one of, like, I think My Funny Valentine, the episode a bit later about her past and stuff. And I think that kind of rekindles those sorts of things, of just a very similar sort of thing of being now, like, having fled because, whatever the reason is, whether Gren pinned it and was like, you just left before, they could leave you, kind of thing. And so she's lashing out, trying to see if they care, giving what some people like to call a poop test, if you will, on people,
Yep.
And just these, having somebody kind of literally take her by the hand and kind of get through something. So that's a pretty interesting thing to at least look at. Maybe it's not on point, but I think you could make an argument for it.
I think so. And was there not an episode earlier where she had done something similar, kind of taken off, or they left her off somewheres, and then they did come back to her, and she was like, "You came back for me," and then the reason they came back was just to get the money back from her, or whatever it was. They were trying to get something back from her. It wasn't because they actually cared about her necessarily. So she's probably always had a bit of that edge to her, trust issues and so forth, and then they haven't really done a good job of giving any reason for her to continue to trust them. But her fleeing like this also, I don't know, Gren's probably right. It's kind of like, see, will they come back or not? But then just Faye is so flaky with stuff as it is. She doesn't know where to place her cards on the table. She acts confident all the time and competent, but deep down, she's looking for something more, like relationship-wise. She needs something more tangible.
You just kind of hit it right there, right? Here is this attractive woman who is not having really any sort of pull, per se, that's like strongly being shown by either of these two men. So that's got to build some sort of like a rejection, even if it's on a subconscious level. It's like, why aren't they attracted to me? Kind of thing. So that's something that isn't going to just immediately make itself known, but after enough of this lack of draw, it's got to start to make her wonder, like, do they even really like care for me at all? If you know, because that's kind of strongly a part of her identity is just this attractiveness. And I think you're thinking of episode 5 with with like, you'll come for me kind of thing.
Oh, right.
I think that might be what you're thinking of.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. But I think, from what I recall, by the time we get to the end, though, her mindset has changed enough to get beyond just that like the lack of attraction piece and so forth. But it's not reciprocated. And at least from one faction of a character. So, I will say the Gren character is an interesting character, and it's nice that we get at least a 2 set of episodes to explore some of this character. But this is a character I wish we could get more backstory, since there seems to be a tie, especially with Vicious. There's a lot of interesting. The nature of this character is interesting to me. I like this sort of way that this character brings philosophy to Faye, and kind of in a very short amount of time is able to build a connection with Faye. But it's kind of odd because, you know, it seems to be it's coming from a place of just, you know, when you can meet somebody, whether it's in a restaurant, in a bar, and it doesn't have to be physical attraction right away or whatever, and you just start talking. Right, and you just start hitting all of these unique points about things, and that's kind of where this to me starts at. But the episode, it's like pushing you to feel like something is going to happen, because it's like there's some really, for lack of a better word, like sexualized angles that they show Faye in, and so forth, and then show kind of Gren in. And I guess they're trying to lead you into, because like once you get to this reveal, right, like they're trying to lead it into something. And I understand, and I don't mind it, but it's too bad, because like just the philosophy between the two of them and that conversation for me was enough. They didn't need to make the room look sweaty and steamy and, you know, like all of that kind of excess.
Well, I think that's what heightens some of that, and that's why I kind of lean towards what I had said about her attraction is not, you know, like, not that it's not working per se, but it isn't, because it's like the two that she's traveling with have so much going on. Maybe it might have been something with Spike, but Spike is too, like, hung up on Julia. Like, Jed even says it. It's like, she's got a hold on him. Like, I don't know anything about it, but
it's just a name.
The claws sunk deep.
Yeah, when he shouts at me, it's just a name.
It's a pretty common woman's name.
Yeah. I do like Jet's look in this when he's got that sort of Eastern European fuzzy hat on and stuff. He looks good in that, and the long trench coat.
Yeah.
It's a good look for him.
Yeah, much better than the parka, the thing that Spike's wearing. It's a little weird.
It's not terrible though, but it's just.
I guess I don't know.
It just almost looks like just kind of average clothes, where Jet's like pulling off, you know, a very, very unique. Not many people can pull off that style kind of thing. So looks good on him though. Yeah. How did you feel about the Gren character?
I don't mind the Gren character. It's nice to get how to put it, like a look into the past on, particularly like Vicious's character. You get a little bit more going on, especially with the War on Titan bit.
World War I
had,
or like kind of similar.
I had some theories about it, but I couldn't quite. It seems like it was just like a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I know with Vincent's character in the movie, I think it happened like his sort of details and stuff are from like a year or two before it. I'm a little fuzzy on the exact details on it, but it's a bit more recent than what I thought. And I know some people think that there are like two different wars on Titan. What were they even fighting on Titan? Why is it a Dust Bowl?
Right.
There are a lot of questions that are not really answered. My theory on it, on one of these, and that's also just because how much Spike annoys me, is that this is when he kind of made his move. But if he had been with Jet for 3 years and the war had just been wrapped up, maybe not so much. But like, and what by all made his move, but like not necessarily purposely, possibly. I don't know. But like the whole getting into a relationship with Julia. From what I gather from all this is that it was initially Vicious and Julia that were together, maybe, and then Spike kind of moved in on it and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely seems to be some kind of a triangle angle there between the three of them. Right. But I agree. I can't really quite place the timeline here because within the war context, it's implied that, he's got this music box playing this song that's, in relation to Julia. But then where does the timeline fall also with the stuff that Spike and Vicious's time together? That to me, that stuff feels more recent, and that this war should have been before that. So was there? But then, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the placement is, but I don't know. My brain says this war happened before the Syndicate stuff, but Julia and Vicious had some kind of connection prior to that. Whether it was just like as kids, not necessarily as in a romantic relationship. And
well, there's the flashback.
He wanted the relationship, though. I don't know. So
that's what I'm saying. There's a flashback with Vicious and Julia in bed together, like that pops up every now and again. And so my theory is that they're in the Syndicate together, and then he gets whatever reason drafted or whatnot, into this sort of thing, and then Julia's. I mean, it happens. Yeah. Like, without the distance of it, who knows how long kind of thing. And then all the stuff goes on with Spike, and then he gets hurt, she treats, and then they just kind of, they fall for each other kind of thing. And this would possibly lead into why Vicious just has this red-eyed fury to kind of go full Syndicate. Like, that's my working theory, not like it has anything based off of a whole lot outside of what I've seen.
Yeah.
And stuff. But that would, that would make sense as to why, to show them both kind of thing. And it's like just a man possessed, and, where Spike kind of, because of the detachment, loses himself to wanting to reconnect. Vicious is kind of like, okay, all right, and then he just goes full psycho mode.
Maybe.
So.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. And, like, I don't know. And in my head, I feel like when Spike got hurt, Vicious was around at the time. But then something happened, not just this war that kind of moved him away, but then if you look at it, well, does Spike not become kind of like the, what do you call that, like, within, like, any sort of, like, mafia stuff? Not the cleaner, but, like, kind of like the right-hand man, right? Like, kind of like, I'm thinking like Inspector, right? When the Mr. Hinks character, right? Like, kind of, I guess Mr. Hinks would have been closer to a cleaner. Maybe Spike would have been considered a cleaner. I don't know. Maybe it would have been. But then it would imply, like you said, like what would set Vicious off? Did this war like psychologically already start to mess him up, and then he comes back and somebody's moved in on his turf kind of thing?
Well, it's like, yeah, that's the war makes me think that that's what kind of pulled them away from each other.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that would make sense. And then I always think of there's that I think it's in the ending sequences. There's always that one scene that flashes where Julia and Spike are coming back and Vicious is up the stairs.
Like in the end credits?
Yeah,
okay.
I think it's, and he's standing on the stairs and he's dressed up and they're like they've gone to the bar or something, and they come back and there's just this sort of, not necessarily shock or anything, but it's just because it's the still.
Mm-hmm.
There's almost kind of like an O.
Mm.
Awkward
mm-hmm.
kind of thing.
I far too often skip the credits now, so.
You monster.
Hey, if I want to get through most of these episodes, I need to save a little bit of time anywhere I can.
Monster.
Yeah, but maybe I'll have to sit there and watch through and see if I can catch that image.
Give him another chance when you can, because I like I said, just some of that stuff to me really, and it is what it is, but it just seems a little. You know, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And I could be totally wrong. It could be that it's flipped on its head and, you know, Vicious tried to kind of body his way in, but I don't think that's the way it went. I think it's the other way.
Yeah, I mean, it is possible, because I'd considered that too, but it probably makes a bit less sense just based on the ruthlessness of Vicious.
Mm.
For it to be the other way around, unless it flip-flops twice, right? Spike is in the picture. He's now out of the picture for some reason. Vicious moves in after the war, you know, maybe she's comforting him in his trauma from the war.
Right.
And then, again, something puts him somewhat out of the picture, but him and Spike are working together in the syndicate at that point. But then Spike moves back in to take over. But then it doesn't really maybe make sense because of how when Julia is treating him, it seems like she doesn't really know him that well. The way the conversation to me, it doesn't, like, and she's treating him and he's all bandaged up and everything.
Well, I think he goes there because he knows her.
Right, but not.
And I think the only reason that he would know her is because of the connection with Vicious.
Right. So yeah, so I mean, not in like an intimate level of like we've had a long-term relationship of knowing each other. Because like the way she talks, right? She doesn't really seem to know much about him. Maybe she knows about him, but not much about his personality. You know, anything truly about him.
Right, and I think it could, you know, whatever sort of PTSD from the war, that, or, I mean, the break could have happened before he went off to war, too. Mm-hmm. And so he's already got this cold, calculating, like, oh, the best thing that happened to you two is that I'm off in Titan.
Right.
Kind of attitude, sort of thing. So.
But that would be kind of weird, too, because
the
type of personality he has, though, right? Like, he doesn't strike me as someone who would just keep fighting to fight for nothing. Like he would have had something to live for. Now in the moment now, it's like it's just that pure vengeance. But if he went off to war,
I don't know about that. He has that line, right? Like when Lynn dies, he has that line. What it's you know, there's nothing to believe in. There's no need.
Well, yeah, he's pretty callous and he's quite soulless by this point.
So, I mean, I'm saying that like that, having his best friend steal his woman, so to say, that could have been what had done it. Like, it's just like, all right, okay, somebody who two people who I trusted have completely betrayed that trust. And all I've got now is the syndicate. So I'm in it for me. to hell with the both of them.
Yeah, and he's probably lost a lot of faith in a lot of things based on, the imagery we see of that war.
Right.
Like just the brutality of what's happening, and the comrades that are around him are just, they fall like flies, right? They're gone in a matter of seconds. You can't really put your
trust in them.
Yeah, and not because they're bad or anything, but just more so because they might not be there tomorrow. And not of their own volition, but just enough people are dying. But then it makes you wonder, why would he kind of treat Gren this way after?
Oh, with the betrayal of that? Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, this could be similar to how, like, the perpetuation of abuse. Mm-hmm. Like, what's the hurt people? Mm-hmm. Kind of like those who are, like, abused when they're younger, when they have kids, the cycle continues. Mm-hmm. That's, of course, not always the case.
No.
But, I mean, it happens frequently enough that people make a point of mentioning that sort of thing, mm-hmm. especially the hurt people mm-hmm. line. It's kind of like, we only have enough to conceptualize what we perceive. Mm-hmm. So if that's what it is, then that's what we're going to project out. I wish people would kind of be able to overcome that thing, but I get that it's a very difficult hurdle to clear.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's where, if Julia were there, right, she could have been the one thing that would have helped turn him around, kind of thing, and bring him back.
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, this is like in a personal way. Like, I feel like if you have those other, if your well-being is incumbent upon, like, other people to kind of pull you through, I think it has to come from within. Like, that's a really hard thing for me for myself, I guess, and just how I am. Like, if that was the case, then, like, she's kind of stuck with him, and if something goes wrong, or if the relationship doesn't work out, does he still go that route? Like. Mm. I mean, maybe that's even how the thing went, is that the relationship didn't work out. Mm. And, this is some time after, and that's when Spike finds himself at that door, because he's, like, oh, like, I need treated kind of thing. And, who knows? Mm. But, like, I mean, I get where you're going with it. I just find it, like, it's like you gotta have that in yourself, sort of thing. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, personal trauma is so hard to measure, right? And it's hard to say. Ultimately, at some point, something internalizing within you will have to push you forward in whatever direction that is. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, there's been a lot of, I guess, historical scenarios or situations where we've seen that that people have not been able to overcome that trauma. For mm-hmm. whatever reason that may be, and often their social supports are lacking. So, yeah, I don't know. We could probably keep going on this venture, but yeah, I'm not saying I agree or disagree with either point. It's just it's such a complicated topic to try to measure, because, yeah, some people have an ability innately to overcome, and some people don't. They really need those social supports, right? And it can all depend on just mm-hmm. how soon that trauma affects you at whatever point of your life. And yeah, we should continue this in another venue, perhaps. Well, like, it's such a fascinating topic.
Yeah, and that's what's, I guess, really neat about Cowboy Bebop. It has these things in here, but it doesn't inundate itself mm-hmm. or inundate the audience with these sorts of things. Mm-hmm. They're just there. Mm-hmm. Like, it's like, yeah, you can pick the Rubik's Cube up. Have fun, kid. Mm-hmm. Try to piece that one together.
I will say, into the negative category, though, is that these two episodes really push me onto that side for Vicious, because just because it's so hard to latch onto some reasoning for this sort of empty, soulless being, because we don't get anything to attach to say, okay, I get it, why this guy's in pain, or this guy's gone off the deep end, or whatever. Like, we get these, like you said, we get these snippets of like, okay, so he's in the war. Well, Gren is there and trying to be a supportive outlet for him, but the snippets we see, Vicious, I mean, I guess Gren felt like it was reciprocated to some degree, but we don't. I don't feel that as I'm watching those scenes. So I have a hard time really buying into Vicious, other than I'm just going to let the world burn. And it's kind of like we see that with a lot of other villains and things. And you're like, okay, well, it's kind of, it's interesting to some degree, but it's also kind of just dull. Like, it doesn't give him enough to it's motivation.
Very generic.
Yeah. Like,
it's very basic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose love can really push you one way or the other. Push you really off the deep end one way or the other.
Yeah. And I think I think it's, a problem that people fall into, of like, in the sense of like the one kind of thing, the onesies sort of thing. So they have this, this is the one, and then that doesn't work out, and so now
this is the two.
There's just this.
This is the three.
Well, not even the two. There's just Bleak, and of course there's the others that go the other route. This is the 37th.
37th marriage.
All right, but
that's pushing it.
Well, I mean, but that's what ends up happening with a lot of people, putting the horse well before the cart, kind of thing, or the cart before the horse. And I mean, it could just be as simple as that. I mean, we really don't get too much more into like Vicious's past, so you only have so much to glean off of. I don't know. There are some things about the episode that are the one thing, this is gonna be stupid, and it bothers me to no end, is that there is no frostbite. Spike suffers nothing from being knocked out conscious.
Right.
That, and also just the whole cold. Right. That and the whole just tranquilizer thing irritates me. It's like these things are not used at all, and then all of a sudden
conveniently.
Yeah, that's just one of the weakest things in the show.
Right.
Really, and it's just like there's a way that you could have done this. He could have bugged something, and then had.
You almost wish he just had a stack of cash in there that blocked the bullet or
something. Yeah. I mean, it does have the nice little bit of just the hazy memory, dreamlike state of things, plus which sort of leans into him possibly trying to suppress or ignore potential feelings that he may have for Faye. Seeing it bleeds in from Julia into Faye right there.
Right.
Like him kind of waking up and he's like asking the crow or the raven, which way's west.
Right.
So, it's, for being a two-parter, it doesn't feel like it drags, which I would say is a nice thing about it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think it's a slow burn, but not one that, because it's bouncing from, Spike and what's going on, Jet what's going on, and Faye what's going on, it's enough that it keeps it at a nice pace.
Yeah, for sure. And they all get Spike is taking the lion's share here, but the other two do get some things to do, which kind of keeps things going, so we're not just solely focused on Spike here. I've got some other gray and not so great things to say, but I do like the overall pacing. And like you're right on that, and I think that there's a lot of stuff to digest here, which is really nice. Like it's nice to get a really. We've been kind of beaten over the head with some of their personality traits and stuff, but something about this episode, these two episodes, continue to explore them a little bit deeper, but don't also give us a hard shift of just, suddenly Faye is now, completely over the fact that she ran away, and it's completely just welcoming back them and hugging them both. And like, I'm glad there isn't just this sudden hard shift. Like they just came to a realization within these two episodes that, like they should really be this way versus that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that just the dour disposition of all three by the end of the episode really kind of it's the it's the silent admission that everything isn't all right, but there's not enough impetus or not enough gumption, chutzpah, what have you, to go beyond that. So it's kind of like, I'm just going to stew in this.
Right.
Because I don't have anything else.
Right. Yeah, it is a little bit, like you said earlier, right? The conclusion here kind of comes back full circle. Right? Everyone's now back on the ship together, even though Fade had run away. Spike's technically kicked out. But there's this sort of weird understanding, this unwritten understanding between the three of them that they haven't actually solved any of their problems, so they kind of need to continue to rely on each other for now. It's the best they've got.
Yeah. Or at least that's what they tell themselves.
Yes.
Because that's not...
well, they're still running from their past, right? So, yeah.
Right.
I look at that as, like this really is the best they can do at this moment. And it's not because they don't feel like they're really great or really bad, but this is just... like, I think you said melancholy. There just seems to be this, here's where I'm at. I don't know where to go. And I'm with these other two people that are kind of in the same boat, and we might figure things out.
Yeah. And that's, I guess it's like a personality quirk that I loathe.
We were speaking on this a little bit earlier.
Yeah, and I'm just kind of like...
But in animated form, it's digestible.
Well, no, it's not even that. It's just it's just a quirk that I just don't like, which is fine. Like that's what makes the show really enjoyable, is that there are these aspects of these characters that I'm just like absolutely not. But that to me is great because it's not like, it's just well rounded or like, we just everything hits off and we're good for it, and I enjoy everything about it. It's kind of nice. It's like, I can really enjoy aspects of most of the characters, and then there's some that I'm like, you really bug me.
Yeah. Well, I think just being able to have that self-removal of a scenario, right? Not actually dealing with this personally, right? You can see it, and you can see parallels in your, either within yourself or within the world around you or the people around you, and it can make you. It's again, it's kind of fascinating to think that you can use this as something to gauge things that are happening around you or within yourself, and see like, okay, there is a message here, and it's like, do I want to end up in these types of ruts, or do I want to give myself a kick and find those that would be supportive around me, find that inner self-esteem to push myself forward? Yeah, it is interesting to watch through, and of course this is obviously a little bit fantastical. You get the fantastical elements, which can be really fun too. So.
Well, that's always something that I enjoy is like when you have good characters, it doesn't matter the setting. Like there's something that you can extrapolate and possibly learn from. That's why I always get miffed when people are like or fiction is just not important, or like it's only historical examples are important and stuff like that. And I don't know, like sometimes fiction just kind of makes a character and allows you to see things that you wouldn't have necessarily thought of. Like it shines a light in a different direction, or at a different angle that you never could have possibly have figured out. And that's with like good characters, and not to say like good isn't wholesome or well intentioned, but just like a strong character kind of thing. And I think that's why something like Cowboy Bebop has been able to, 20 plus years after its initial release, has been able to stay as poignantly as it has, even with the live action petering out. That's about the only other time I'm going to mention that now. But,
stricken from the record.
Yeah, just make it one long beep. But it's just how just well established they are and with their characters and stuff. That it takes place in 2071
or something,
and they're hopping all over the solar system sort of thing. Even with all of that silly nonsense going on, it is still the human element that is shining through. And not only just the human element, but the societal elements and the malaise that's going on. And that's, So
I only have one other major positive I'd like to add, and I really enjoyed the dogfight scene.
Okay.
And how Gren joins in on that, and I like the structure of Gren's ship. I thought that was kind of a cool, a little bit different. Yeah, it's not overly long, but I found a lot of the times when we had some of these ship battles and stuff, I've enjoyed a lot of them in pretty much every episode. So yeah, I thought that was fun here. I thought that was kind of cool. Yeah, a little bit goofy though, like that Vicious basically gets knocked out of the sky and just, "I'll get you next time, Gadget," and just like kind of flies off. But I mean, that's a little bit like like that's a little bit too much. But just the overall presentation of it and outrunning the missiles and Gran coming and shooting them down, I like that.
Yeah, no, it's a good one. It's nice to have it's not necessarily that it's a three-way fight, but it's, Vicious is fighting.
It's a little more
two different fights.
Yeah. Spike doesn't necessarily probably trust Gren per se, but I think he recognizes that, they have a common enemy in this fight.
The, one scene that I really liked, and this might also hint to something you had mentioned earlier about it. We see a very, very angry Spike in the part one.
Like when he confronts them?
No, when he gets when he is mistaken as Vicious. Yeah. And he is mighty mad.
Yeah.
Mighty mad. You can see how much of a sore spot that is. And I like the line he delivers on that. And I know it gets played a lot, partially because it's just that sort of steampunkish look of the masks and everything that they're wearing and the weaponry and everything. But he's like, "You think I'm vicious? You don't know what vicious is." And it's just like, oh boy.
That poor guy gets beat up a couple of times.
I do like his line though. when Chet's just asking him a question, he's like, "I'm just gonna find honest work, honest job or something." It's like good on him to recognize that. And of course, he recognizes that and immediately gets into gets hit by a vehicle or something. Yeah. So
they just stepped into the wrong business.
So, is there any big It doesn't have to be big, but any like strong negatives or middling things?
I have something in the middle, and I'd just be curious to know. So like the Gren reveal, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would assume today, this, like, I don't know, like was that really shocking to somebody watching this when this initially released versus today, where, you know, I don't want to say it's like commonplace, but we're a lot more aware, I guess, of people going through those type of changes. I know Grant didn't actively choose to go through this change necessarily, but yeah, would a modern take on this would just like not really register any type of a response, really, as compared to perhaps when this came out. I'm just more curious than anything.
I'm trying to remember. Like, I remember it being kind of like a bit of a shock, I guess, at first, because you're like, oh, but it was more of just like a momentary thing, and it was just like, okay, whatever.
Yeah,
like, I really don't recall early aughts. It being a thing outside of just the shock of, because I think that's really is it? Now that I think about it, I think it might be the only time that exposed breasts are seen throughout the show. I'm trying to
we did have a scene a couple episodes ago where Faye walked in on a couple.
But
they didn't show. Yeah, didn't show anything necessarily.
Well, but that's what I mean, though. I mean, like exposed breast, like that.
I don't think so. And this is still kind of subdued in its presentation to some degree, right? Like it's not. Yeah, it's not meant to be. I don't know. Enticing, I guess, and like it's not. I don't know. To me, it wasn't really. Like it was meant to. It's a reveal.
It's not like a heavy fan service.
Yeah.
Have all that sexual tension and stuff.
Yeah, because all the tension that builds up to it, and then just sort of like the reveal is. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, it's interesting. There was a horror movie that had a reveal similar to this.
Okay.
That what's that? Sleepaway Camp or something like that. Camp Sleepaway or something like that. And I remember hearing that was a big deal because it was from the 70s, I want to say, where there's like a reveal of a character that was going around killing everybody at the camp. They assume it's this boy, but the boy is revealed to be a woman at the end. But nobody expected it. Yeah, like and it's like a full like nude shot of this character, but they have like a terrifying like look on their face too. So it's like it's quite a striking image, I guess we'll say. And of course, back in maybe it's early 80s, something like that. It's quite a long time ago. So I don't know if this imagery in this was meant to kind of also, just because there's so many other things that are like calls to other movies and media and stuff. I don't know. It's not presented in the same fashion, but the character. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm making a link that's not there necessarily, but yeah, just more curious. Yeah, like would this really register anything, today? I don't know. Maybe not so much. I would assume.
It's a possibility. Now I can't really speak about.
It adds a really unique dynamic to this Gren character, though, right? Like when we meet the character, it's implied that this is a male character, but there's definitely some of those like effeminate qualities to the character and that sensitiveness to the character. And then when we get to the end, where the character does appear physically more female, the character is a bit more aggressive or portraying, I guess, if you will, a closer to a masculine traits, except for like the very end, but like when he's coming after Vicious and stuff, right? It's interesting, that balance that we start to see shift and move as the character is introduced, and in the middle, and then at the end. And this is where I would like to explore this character more. Right? I think there's a lot that could have been brought up more about the character, and it seems like the character has lived an interesting life prior to also this treatment and stuff. So, yeah.
Okay.
Heck of a musician.
right.
That's a cool introduction too, with the being in the jazz bar and stuff. I like the introduction of the character.
It's a nice look.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't really have too much I want to add to my comments on anything. I don't know if there's anything else you want to...
Yeah, not too strongly negative, but just Spike's, like, I get that the emotions are all mixed up here, but he's just kind of, like, all over the place, this whole set of episodes, like, from wanting to basically, like, punch Gren into the atmosphere to now, like, helping Gren, out in space to... Yeah, I don't know. I find Spike very confusing in these episodes.
Because he's thinking with one head more than the other.
Yeah, I suppose, but it's just... it's just...
Well, I mean...
I'm getting less inclined to root for this character as time goes on.
Yes,
for so many reasons.
Join me.
I never loved Spike. I see why people think, he's the epitome of cool and everything. I get all that.
It's all a facade.
But yeah, when you start breaking down this character, there's so much emptiness to it. It is a parallel to Vicious in so many ways.
This is the mark of annoys me, is that everybody gets focused on just that, the facade, and it's like that's not the real person.
Mm-hmm. And
you're propping up somebody who's really needs attention because they keep on. Life is telling them, giving them wonderful lessons. Like, hey,
opportunities.
Person, Gren just died because
mm-hmm.
he was stuck, buried in the past. Understandably so,
mm-hmm.
after being betrayed and being drugged as a prisoner,
altered, and
right. So, understandably so, but in the same hand, still stuck in the past, trying to rectify that, trying to figure out why,
mm-hmm.
instead of moving forward. Dies right in front of you. What do? Oh, we're just gonna keep going with this way. Nothing to be learned here. Just keep. Oh my god. And then I'm good. Oh, but the moment that I get mentioned of my old best buddy, I'm super angry. Oh, where's Julia? Oh my goodness.
Well, we have 13 more, so let's temper some of that. We shall continue to forge our.
Well, we have a little bit more.
Our battle swords for when we get to.
We got the movie as well as the mishmash.
Yeah, so a little bit more, but yeah. So like this, I wouldn't say this is necessarily a full turning point because it's definitely a slow burn to continue to get to that point. Mm. Yeah, I'm having a hard time coming around with some of the stuff that's going on with the character, and appreciating. Like I can appreciate the cool factor. There are absolutely some really cool imagery of the character and moments of the character. There's 100% there is.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I've got to put that in that.
I think it's just
the shady back end category there.
It's the same problem that I know I can fall on myself, is like the potentiality of something.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, there's these bright small glimmers of something. And it's like, well, if it's not space, like you can judge the whole space. You can judge the whole tapestry there. Like there's a lot of crud.
Mm-hmm.
And sure, there's these little glimmers and stuff, but yeah, it's a little bit more muddled.
Yeah.
Gracious.
That and Jet, stop giving people chances. Like you kicked your old lady to the curb 2-3 episodes ago.
Well, it took him a few years to.
Yeah, it did, but
he got there. Well, but yeah, well, that's
did
the thing.
He not learn the lesson though at that point?
He'll learn this lesson again, and he'll learn the lesson as many times as he needs to until it finally sinks in.
Yeah.
Right. That's just kind of a funny way life goes about doing things. Because if you're going to keep doing the thing that led you to that, obviously it's what's that? It's not quite the same thing, but what's that from No Country for Old Men? The law led you to where we're at right now. What good was the law? Or something like that.
I haven't watched that movie actually. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, it's a good line, but since you don't know this, it's not spoiling anything, so surprise.
No, I know a bit of the movie, so.
Okay.
It looks quite good. I just never got around.
It's really good, really good. Highly recommend it. Also, part of it takes place in Del Rio, Texas, where I was born. So cool. Which is a really weird thing, but yeah. I'm going to keep planting those seeds, and hopefully you'll start picking up more of those things. Hopefully other people do.
Not me. I picked this up pretty quick. Like, I was just like, my friend, you've got some baggage there.
Here's the problem. Like, so more impressionable me watching it, I didn't really catch a lot of that. So I just caught the cooler, shinier parts. And then more older, jaded me, I guess, maybe. Not really jaded, but just older me is like, all right, dude, I see through this. Come on now. Like, quit lying to yourself. Like, come on. Like, stop this. So, bounty time.
Yes, sir.
So, we're going to go with what Faye stole.
Yep.
Which was the 20,000 longs. But Gren was on the hot shot there as a double time, because it was never really specified the bounty as far as we're aware. So we're gonna make it 40,000. That's what we're going with. So what is your bounty for this one?
Well, for these two in combination. I am having a hard time to figure out what I want, and I maybe by the end of all of this, I could change my mind on to go up or down or whatever. I'm just going to stick with the 40. I'm going to go right on the money with this one, because it's got to settle some more, I guess, like just to kind of figure out how this all ties into everything and getting that second half of the series. And I'm going to go with 40. I'm just going to stick with 40.
All right. I'm going to double the double and go with 80,000.
Okay.
I do enjoy these two a lot. Even though it is all kind of leading back within itself, but I guess that's the infuriating thing with people. We just seem to fall back into our habits.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add?
I really find it annoying that Lynn's death was completely meaningless for all involved, essentially. Like, Spike being hesitant, still to lose somebody apparently he cares for to some degree, and for Vicious to just act like, that self-sacrifice, like, what an idiot, basically. You knew you had to do that because you're useless, basically, to me, even though Lynn's basically professed like his loyalty, right, several times to Vicious, and it's just like, you're loyal to a fault, you're gonna die, and then it comes true, and it's like, oh wow, this guy really sucks.
But I mean, this also could go back to the jadedness of the war, and how to survive you need to betray, kind of thing. That's so it reinforces for better and for worse. So, dog eat dog. But definitely let us know your thoughts on the two-parter jazz and Sea of Space Cowboy. Also,
another episode that does not end with the Sea of Space Cowboy.
Yeah, right. That and the Space Lion song is primo stuff. Good song to end on.
Oh yeah, the end credits.
Yeah,
that was a cool one.
Fantastic song, great song.
And just kind of reiterated the cycle of emptiness by just showing us empty space.
So. Anyways, Sea of Space Cowboy.